don't want to amplify his message, but Frank Figliuzzi, I think we want to give DHS credit for this warning. I'll read the warning first, and then I'll read what is reportable about his message. This is part of the DHS bulletin released this past Friday, less than a week ago. Quote, the homeland continues to face a diverse and challenging threat environment leading up to and following the 20th anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 attacks, as well as religious holidays we assess could serve as a catalyst for acts of targeted violence. These threats include those posed by domestic terrorists, individuals and groups engaged in grievance-based violence, and those inspired or motivated by foreign terrorists and other malign foreign influences. These actors are increasingly exploiting online forums to influence and spread violent extremist narratives and promote violent activity. Such threats are also exacerbated by impacts of the ongoing global pandemic, including grievances over public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions. So everything that our federal law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies knew might happen isn't always in a bulletin, but what they thought was helpful to release to police departments all over the country was put in that one I just read. And here's what's reportable about, as Tom says, we're not sharing this in terms of amplification. We're sharing it in terms of, I think, starting to understand what it is that our intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies are worried about. Mr. Roseberry, the alleged wannabe bomber today, addressed President Joe Biden, made several demands, including wanting American airstrikes in Afghanistan and the resignation of Biden, saying he would end his standoff if the president left office. Frank, this seems to be the kind of individual that Homeland Security experts are concerned about.
Indeed. First, let me say kudos to the authorities today for successfully resolving this peacefully in the form of a surrender. That's the outcome you want every single time. But you don't want these kinds of things happening all the time. So this investigation is going to be just as much about learning about the suspect as about learning about the next one. And that's because the context we're living in right now is precisely what's reflected in those DHS warnings. It will start playing out. What we're seeing in this individual's social media already, and the associates that I work with who are on this and digging and scraping his social media, his postings, they're telling me there is a deep sense of cause. As incoherent as it may be with this individual, there's a cause that he thinks he belongs to. There's a grievance or several grievances he thinks he needs to air out. And why do we care about this? Why are we even talking about it? As you said, it's not to amplify him. It's to amplify the DHS warning that tells us that there's a perfect storm of grievance and cause developing on extremist sites of all kinds. What is it? And now let's add, by the way, let's add to what I'm about to list, Afghanistan, and a sense that something went wrong there and somehow that's an injustice perhaps to those who serve there or not. But let's rattle it off. The anti-mask, the anti-vaccine, the January 6 political prisoner notion, the notion that Ashley Babbitt is some kind of martyr for the cause that needs to be avenged, and now that Trump will come back and a rally is going to happen this weekend in Alabama. All of this is going to happen, and then a major rally that's been permitted already in the District of Columbia later in September. All of this is causing a kind of online radicalization that, quite frankly, I've not seen since my days working Al-Qaeda, ISIS. It's the radicalization to violence. It's online. It's the desire to be a part of something greater than yourself and your willingness to act out violently because of your beliefs.
Frank, let me just follow up. And I share the discomfort and this sort of tension about amplification. But I think that some of that discomfort is how we're here, because on the right, I want to mention one other topic. And again, I'm not going to play it. I watched it. I'm not going to show it. But the other topic is a lot of complaints about undocumented immigrants. What is being broadcast night after night on other networks as we cover the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Fear-mongering about refugee resettlement. I mean, it is a pipeline to a whole lot of people that are not inspired to violence. But for he and she who are inspired to violence, there is a direct line from the disinformation and the fear-mongering and right-wing media.
Yeah, this notion, look, we've already seen it in postings, even from members of Congress, showing the potential for refugees pouring out of Afghanistan. These people aren't like us. Do you want this plane landing in your backyard? All the fear-mongering that's going on top of all of the craziness that's already here. And, you know, there are those who will say, well, you know, police can't anticipate, and leadership should never anticipate a crazy person doing something like this all by himself that happened today. No, that's right, except that's not where we're at right now. The craziness, the unhinged people, the people willing to commit violence are becoming large enough and no longer a fringe and now mainstreamed that we do have to worry about them. And we do have to worry about the next one. So the FBI is going to dig deeply into this guy's background, not just to make a case against him, that's already made, but quite frankly, to figure out where he got radicalized, who else is like him, who else is in the wings ready to commit the kind of violence that DHS is warning us about.